welcome to another Best Junglers video, this one fresh from patch 12.19. As we head towards the end of the season, Riot have given us some off-meta jungle buffs. They've also buffed a whole bunch of other stuff, nerfed Yi and Rek'Sai, and with the nerfs to Eclipse, does that leave us in some sort of weird hybrid meta as we head towards season 13? We will go over all the best junglers for every single rank, plus low and high MMR, and if you want to understand how to best play these champions and the jungle, I have put my live jungle companion guide on Zota.gg and tailored it to over 30 junglers. That's almost every single jungler. This includes my patented ganking tier list, my game plan maker, what jungle routes you should go for your champion. It tells you what I would do in any given scenario in the early, mid, and late game. All through a dynamic pop-out on your screen where you can control whatever you want to see or don't see, including all of Za's in-game information, which you can of course tailor to your preferences and move wherever you like on the screen. How nice. Along with the specific best routes, best items, and best runes for your champion, the Jungle Live Companion Guides on Zota.gg by Virkayu is your best way to improve and get better. With more than 8,000 players and 46,000 games played on my Zota.gg guides, I trust them to get you where you want to be. And also stay ahead of the curve by the time season 13 arrives, as I will update them frequently, so get your goals by the end of season 12 and exceed them in season 13 with a link in the description below. Okay, and the S tier page has to begin with Udyr. He is not sitting next to Hecarim for once, and I will explain that when we get to the Hecarim section. And while the champion isn't as broken as he was on release thanks to some hotfixes, some nerfs, some buffs, some shifting around in the kit, and now of course buffing to lane minions that damage he has, it has never been easier to farm, run at people with CC immunity, burn them down with R, or just slap them around with Q. If you want to play Q with Prowler's Claw, that is kinda hilarious. But now you can also split push. Now you can also tax waves with impunity. Although I'm not recommending that, I'm just saying you can. Yes? The champion is just representative of the jungle at the moment. You can full clear loop, you can lap enemy junglers, but you also have obscene objective control. You can fight them 1v1, you can gank lanes pretty damn easily with your CC immunity and stun, and your R essentially has that sticky chase down factor that also slows. The champion is significantly more dynamic than he was pre-rework, however he is still just as obnoxious in all the wrong ways. Or right ways if you just want LP and enjoy steamrolling over games, because that's what he does. There's not a lot of nuance to it, it's just a case of go, be. And second on this list is Kayn, because even though they keep trying to bring him down, and it turns out Rast is over-healing and over-damaging as it is, so that little nerf, did nothing. No one's buying Grievous Wounds anyway. Every time I run into this champion, I have no issue personally controlling and doing things to him. However, he then does things to my team, which I find a little obscene, and his inherent rule-breaking in terms of base form E, Shadow Assassin E, and then just Rast Sustain, and of course the E. He's still overkilling everyone, he's still over-sustaining everyone, and he becomes an absolute monster 1.5 to 2.0 version of a champion. It's like base form Kayn kind of feels like, you know, a regular champion from 2015, and then he gets his form and he's like a 2030 champion, and no one's even remotely close. The amount of map control, farming, sequencing that you have, this means that you can cheese. This means you can full sequence. This means you can react to any sort of action on the map whatsoever. Please do so. Get your orb, stack it, make it worth it, and then pick a lane and just repeat and abuse. That's all you want to do. You want to repeat and abuse, go deep inside them, and really make the enemy jungler, even if he has control of the game, start to follow you, start to worry about where you are, and start to chase you down, because guess what? They can't do it. You can. You're Kayn. You're the Chad. Get your LP. Oh hey, is that Echo from Arcane? Because look, it's Echo from Arcane. He got buffed, and all of a sudden, even though he was pretty solid in the jungle, despite Riot's sort of, you know, ignorance of that, now he's super strong again, so we might even have an Echo meta developing on our hands. Passive damage increased, bonus movement speed increased early, R damage is increased later, AP scaling increased. Your passive is gonna feel mighty juicy, and the damage from your ultimate, if you can sync that up to squash a squishy, that's gonna be mighty juicy as well. Yes, we still inherently lack in our 4 clear tempo, which is why you can always do some sort of 4 camp combination. You can do a 5 camp tempo control clear, you can do a 3 camp action. There are more than enough jungle route choices for you to get on the map and get yourself snowballing, and even if you don't, all it takes is one fight for you to snowball and get out of control. Remember, the damage component here is huge. Your scaling with atomization is absolutely better. And what is Echo the king of? Because we don't have that ability to sort of drive the ganking tempo nor farming tempo, we are the king of counter ganks and lane ganks. Use your W beautifully when combined with exceedingly good jungle tracking. And guess what? You will win games, you will snowball games, and no one can kill you because you have the reset button. So Lady Above Earth has sort of retained this presence at the top of the tier list. Most notably, she had a bit of a weaker phase. She is better in lower elo, however, with the nerfs and changes to other champions around us, with the nerfs to things like Eclipse that don't bother us, her win rate data and presence is picking up once more. People are learning that you're not just an AFK farming do nothing piss jungler. You are something that's aggressive, that invades, that snowballs, and that can fight anybody with one item. That's why we like Future's Market and Kraken Slayer. The attack range, very difficult to deal with if you're a squishier champion. The E, absolutely sucky demonic levels, worse than Fiddlesticks. You have to try and burst her out or leave the zone, or you know what's gonna happen. She has an insanely low skill floor. I was kind of hoping they would, beef that up and make her a bit more difficult to play, but she's just looking like a Master Yi archetype, and you know what I actually think? Master Yi has more skill expression than Bel'Veth at the moment. Go watch the 1400 LP Scenarios jungle video I just released on Master Yi. He is insane with that champion. I'll link it below, and it really is something that Bel'Veth doesn't have to think about whatsoever. There's no animation canceling, you just gotta auto queue. And yeah, Diana's also simple, but she's kind of getting forgotten about. Yeah, the Sunfire build got nerfed a little, but that's good for most of you. It means now you can just proto belt and kill everybody. The tank build will very easily still get you to diamond. You can just farm well, make sure you do a few ganks and counter ganks in between your sequencing, control a few objectives, and once you get 2-3 items, no one's gonna touch you. At the same time, you will recognize, look, you're lower on the damage end of the spectrum, and if you truly need to 1v9 carry a game, the Protobot Zhonya's or the Protobot Nash's Zhonya's, you don't really need the Nash's, but for longer DPS fights you can have it. Gives you one-shot ability of those enchanters, gives you split push ability when your team suck, and honestly, if you can just dive in and kill a fed member of the enemy team who is basically carrying them, then you've, eradicated their win con. You are the win con. You win games. Simple, right? Next we have Fiddlesticks, and with all the worry about, oh no, can he double camp in Season 13? People didn't stop to realize that, oh wait, yeah, of course he can. I just have to pick a different spot to suck. And come on, he's a rule-breaking jungler, which means he needs to have some sort of niche thing in the jungle that allows him to be separate from everybody else. He is so different that most people who think he's easy go and try and pilot it, can't full clear, and miss every single ult they take. The champion will always be strong because you're not going to see it that much. He is able to abuse bad position and control mid and late game fights, and with his farming tempo, is difficult to outscale if you don't invade and try and control that aspect. Unique and powerful, I would never worry about Fiddlesticks being forgotten by Riot. They love the fact that this rework was a great success, has a niche fandom and one-trick army, and also has something so radically different in the jungle to the meta that it's honestly nice to put him on this list. Even if it is kind of strong and irritating sometimes, it's nice to have something different. Next we have Master Yi, and I've said everything I need to say about Master Yi in that video I just released. Love that he has way more skill expression, hate that Riot have broken him at all tiers of play, love that they try to nerf it a little bit. It seemingly has just tickled him because he was overdamaging and overscaling anyway. This champion scales the best out of any jungler with gold, which means you must never die for free. If you're getting 1 or 2 kills per death, that's okay in the first phases, but you're always looking to get plates, kills, minion wave pushes, holds, whatever gives you gold. You want that 9k gold by 40 minute as we looked at with Scenarios, and you can auto carry every single game. This is by far the best 1v9 jungler in the game at the moment. And you might have thought, hey, that's weird to say, isn't it Hecarim? And honestly, the reason Hecarim is here isn't because necessarily he's bad. It's because I no longer fear the pilots of this champion. Is he easy? Yes. Is itemization easy? Yes. Do people keep buying the wrong items anyway? Yes. They'll buy Chem Tank and think they're gonna do damage. They don't. They'll buy Eclipse and think they're gonna be tanky. You aren't. You'll buy Divine Sundra to learn the champion and then think, oh wait, why am I not doing damage and why am I not tanky? Because the item is great to kind of learn and get used to it, but you really have to stop autopiloting this mythic because you obviously have the Chemtech Manamon build which kind of still works but not really optimized. Trinity Force is really good when there's not a lot of tanky people with a lot of CC. You have to think about the itemization. And most people are just piloting him blindly, get a Yuumi, and most of us have no issue playing against it, which is good, because that's what we wanted. We need someone who's rewarded for playing damage and playing it accordingly, not someone who just automatically has damage with no skill. Right onto the A tier page, and we have to start with Graves. Graves is worthy of an S tier page, but it really comes down to the pilot. He's difficult to sort of control from a jungle game flow sense, and mechanically it's not that difficult, but obviously fluidity of combos and kind of knowing what to do in a specific moment, using the Q against walls, knowing how much damage you can rack up with your autos, using an ult for maximum range for Dark Harvest stackage, Assassin vs Bruiser, pros and cons. The jungle was not the same when he wasn't here, and it's not the same when he is here, and I wish he wouldn't be here because it's so frustrating to play against a good Graves. Obnoxious, really. But at the same time, he feels dealable. A bad Graves, a bad jungler, this is not something you are too worried about. When it's an auto win, even if the jungler's bad, that's frustrating. Graves, if he smokes on you, you know the guy's a good player. He didn't need buffs, he got buffs, he's stronger now. The nerf to Eclipse, he doesn't really care, still good. And remember with Rek'Sai and Graves, we have these memes about, losing 5 AD, gaining 5 AD. With Rek'Sai now they've moved 3 AD from the base attack damage, which does affect you early on phases, but Rek'Sai was overkilling people anyway. Rek'Sai will continue to overkill people, and that win rate hasn't budged whatsoever. Queen of map control, queen of early game, queen of smurfing, queen of if you main this champion and you haven't gotten diamond or master tier yet, that's because you just need to improve your jungling. It's not the champion, but I believe in you. You can do it. Kindred's been good for most of the season as a predatorial, aggressive, snowballing jungler. However, they are not having the best win rate in Master Plus at the moment, but still very good overall in your sort of Diamond Plus ranges. However, don't let that stop you. This is an absolute free smurf jungler to get the diamond, to get the master tier, and if you are master plus playing Kindred and you understand that champion, absolutely still thriving. Zac, on the other hand, is something that some people are just banning because they'd rather deal with a bad Hecarim and a bad Udyr than deal with anyone on Zac because, again, bit of a foolproof jungler, bit of an idiot-proof jungler. The max range E means you don't have to think about ganking. Where every other jungler has to think about how they're going to approach a ganking angle, Zac just sits somewhere and just max ranges, smacks on a mobile champion in the face and chain CCs him for 18 years. It's really not that difficult to pull off a successful Zac gank. If you mess it up, it's actually impressive. Added the healing, the damage, and of course the tankiness, whole package. Kha'Zix is once more under the radar, and I think Kha'Zix mains like that because they don't want to be nerfed, and he certainly doesn't need to be buffed, but sort of keeping this champion a little bit on the low-key side. Hey look, I'm very strong, I can solo carry games, people are going to disrespect me because they don't see me enough. These are all the things that Kha'Zix players like. There's Duskblade tech, there's Prowler's Claw tech, and of course they are very defensive over their particular evolving build paths. Someone else will come up with another one and they'll say, no, you're not meant to do that. It's quite funny actually. Nidalee is extremely potent. Nidalee is extremely difficult, probably the most difficult jungler in the game to use properly. But if you are smurfing on Nidalee, you know you're a cougar abuser, then the champion is absolutely primed for your greatness, for your LP gain, and for the enemy jungler's misery. As long as you are advocating for these and achieving these things, this champion will get you to master 1k LP, 2k LP, 3k LP. There is no limit except on the bottom end. Please do not play this below diamond. You can start on platinum, but please, just don't. I don't want to see this in a gold game. You're not going to make it work. Viego, does he need buffs? You could justify maybe a little bit of a numbers touch, but at the end of the day, again, people are just making the wrong itemization decisions and the wrong game decisions with said itemization. It's not optimizing the champion, much like Hecarim, but a good snowballing Viego who understands his itemization build path, who understands his pathing with the 5-chem tempo control, and who understands how to become the champion that he's becoming, with the use of resets of course, is going to be dominating. And thus, he is still on the tier list, followed by the demonic hellspawn himself, Shaco, because even though his data isn't that great, there are so many other champions I could put here and say, hey look at their Elise win rate, but really is Elise a good jungler? There are so many champions you could put here and say and justify with their data that they belong on the A tier page. But when it comes to rule breaking, solo carrying games, and being something so unique that you can carry every game within your control, then we have to talk about the Shaco, Shaco, AP, AD doesn't really matter. Just please thrive on the ganking every lane and tilting factor, because if you do not, you might as well play Udyr, right? And now we go onto the low elo page, which you should see the classics such as Yi and Modern Master Yi, and of course Nudir, Amumu. We have the Nocturne who was buffed OP and then nerfed and now just good in low elo again. Shyvana buffed for AP. More of a skillful build, didn't really change the win rate too much, but again, great for low elo. Followed by the Warwick and Vi, who are having a little bit better of a time in low elo than they have done. I know Vi's seen a lot of pro play, but that was just it. Pro play, not really solo queue. But yeah, their aggressive nature at the end of the season when players start to build safe and build more resistance based. Hey, that's when your percentage HP damage comes through, your sustain, your CC. The win condition game style becomes supreme, and these two are masters of that. And in high elo, it's quite weird. You know, you've got Nidalee as a generally good pick, and Graves, obviously they're great in high elo. Echo will be great. Lee Sin, terrible for everybody else, great in high elo. But then you see Maokai's, Jarvan's, Udyr's, and even a little bit of Bel'Veth. Obviously, your prototypical and classic high elo champions, as you see on your screen now, are still great. They are still performing very well, and you can still use them. But in terms of presence, pick rate, ban rate, and win rate, those simple champions that can understand how to play around lanes in the current meta are really thriving, are really doing a great job of providing high elo players map control, game control, and teamfight control. But there's no doubt that the solo carry ability that Graves and Nidalee and Echo have is really unmatched in terms of, hey, I'm the carry now, I'm gonna carry this game, we're gonna win it because I'm gonna carry it. And hopefully your team agrees, otherwise you better be Maokai or they might tilt. But there you have it, all the best junglers for one of the final patches of Season 12. We should have one, maybe two more of these before we head into Season 13. I've outlined all the changes to Season 13, you can go watch that on the box in your top right. However, if you want to understand more about the Master Yi playstyle and how to thrive and make sure you win no matter what, click the video in the box on the bottom left.